SANDHAN, all Gujarat integrated classroom.
સેટેલાઇટ ના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello friends. Today the topic we are going to discuss is 1984, written by George Orwell. If you can see, it's numbered, but then it's one of the most talked about historical as well as futuristic novel. When we look into the slide, we'll able to understand a bit about the picture. If you see the background, it's all about a kind of picture was made over this novel. The background is all about the picture still, and this is one of the cover by this is the picture of George Orwell, the writer, was born in 1903 and he died in 1950. About the author, George Orwell was the pen name of Eric Blair. Orwell was an Englishman born in India in 1903. He died at the age of 47. Orwell was educated at Eton, a prestigious boarding school in England. Something more about the author. Orwell decided to skip college and work as a British imperial policeman in Burma. He hated working in Burma and returned to English on sick leave. English means England. Once back in England, he dedicated himself to write full time. 1984 was written in 1947, but finally got published in 1948, and thereby that may be the reason, one of the reason why 1984 is the title. Maybe because he was looking for the future. He was trying to explain how the future would go if the current situation prevailed. Orwell's political view. He considered himself a democratic socialist and was critical of communism. He hated intellectuals, lying, cruelty, political authority and totalitarianism. This is one of the reasons what you can find. These are all the aspects what you can find in the novel too. He strongly opposed Stalin and Hitler. He was very outspoken during the World War II. Some of his famous works: Down and Out in Paris and London, written in 1933, a non-fiction narrative in which he describes his experience among the poor. Burmese Day, written in 1934, based on his experience in the colonial service. The Road to Big Empire, written in 1937, a report on the condition of miners in the industrial north. These are all not only based off his first-hand experience, but also his experience which he could feel through. Homage to Catalonia, written in 1938, based on his experience during the Spanish Civil War. An Animal Farm, which is one of the yet again much talked political allegory, written in 1945, made him internationally known and financially secure too. 1984, which got published in 1949, his most original work. Now we'll talk about the setting and genre of 1984. If you can look over the picture, you can see the scripture written is, if you want a picture of the future image, a boot stamping on a human face forever. That is what it is. I mean, that is the whole in a nutshell to talk about 1984. It is futuristic, cautionary novel. We'll have to take care about our present, only then we'll be able enough to have a bright and calm future. That is a kind of message which has been prevailed throughout the novel. Setting is London, in the mythical country of Oceania. Time period, as been said in the novel, is 1984, which is in the future. And the most important aspect, 1984 brought Big Brother to the world. If you can remember, there are many even international programs were held, and even in some channel in India also you could see Big Boss or Big Brother kind of stuff, where you are able to visualize people from different background and celebrities even coming into one room, settled all together without any kind of attachment from the with surrounding, and they're all together given something in their house and they have to go on with the activities as been said by Big Boss or Big Brother. Somewhere that was in actual the situation which we can see in the novel too. But the difference is, in those kind of programs, we all, or even the participants, know exactly that they are going to be set free by, let's say, 60 or 40 days. So they can somehow be calm for that. But imagine a situation where you are nowhere given a priority of yourself. You are not free to think about yourself or something which you like, but you have been authoritatively said by somebody to observe and regulate the laws given by somebody else. That is a weird situation, and that is very cautionary thing which may happen in the future according to George Orwell. That is why he wrote this kind of novel in a very early time. Talking about the mythical place, as I said, the setting is in London, but it is about a mythical place. Oceania is the name. And Oceania's rank, if you talk about, it's a huge country ruled by the party, which is led by a figure called Big Brother. We cannot in reality see a person called Big Brother, but we feel his presence throughout the novel, and at the same time we can see lots and lots of pictures throughout, but we cannot see as a person. But the inner party is just of 1% of the population, and that is, they control the people. They control the country rather, and the outer people, which is of 18% of population, are controlled by the inner party. Then 81% of population were the proles, and they are the labor power who live in poverty. And the Brotherhood is another underground rebellion organization led by Emmanuel Goldstein. In every party there would be a supporting party and there would be an against one. Likewise, here also Orwell tries to set that Oceania is being ruled by a party who is, Big Brother is the head of it, and at the same time there was another party called Brotherhood who was against all the the party Brotherhood was against. They were a bit rebellious. And there were separate ministries in Oceania, and total there were 4 ministries are housed in huge pyramidal structures displaying the 3 slogans of the party on the sides. The first one was the Ministry of Peace. The statement is quite ironical, but still that was the ministry's name, which is called Minimax. Minimax is the Newspeak name for the Ministry of Peace, which concerns itself with making war. Now it is quite opposite. Though it is the Ministry of Peace, but they regulate and concern itself, its duty is to make war. Many packs, and if you can see the word Newspeak, what exactly it is, we'll see in the next coming slides. Second ministry is Ministry of Plenty, which is Mini Plenty in Newspeak language. It is the ministry involved in maintaining ubiquitous poverty in Oceania. Plenty, and they manage poverty. The Ministry of Peace concerned itself with war, wrote Orwell himself. A few years early, Roosevelt had described the fourth of his freedoms as being freedom from fear. Reality said otherwise, and so did Orwell in describing the Ministry of Peace. Any which ways, we can even see in today's scenario there are lots of slogans, and there are many politicians who assure many things, but in reality very few are being set true, or very few are being organized or developed into reality. Likewise, Roosevelt also did give an assurance of freedom from fear, which didn't actually happen, and that is why one of the influence why he named Ministry of Peace in such, and they were all in the regulation of making war. The Ministry of Love, wrote Orwell, was in reality concerned with torture. The second of the 4 freedoms addressed the issue of religion. If God is love, then the Ministry of Love could be interpreted as mocking that ideal as well, because love always tend to be cheated A person who believes someone and who is in love may not be able enough to achieve that true love quotient. Maybe that is the reason why Orwell said, like, if God is love, how can cheating happen? That is why, to mock it up, he wrote Ministry of Love, which was all about torture. Finally, Orwell describes the Ministry of Plenty as dealing in reality with starvation. The third of Roosevelt's four freedom addressed the issue of freedom from want. I have a picture, image of Roosevelt's four freedom thing. We'll look into the next slide and we'll understand that. Orwell seems to have heard these words with a sarcastic mindset. Maybe that is the reason why he wrote all this. Then the next ministry was of truth. Mini-True is the propaganda arm of the AGIC state. They describe, distribute the leaflets, porno, and of course the telescreens. Winston Smith spends his daytime. Winston Smith is the protagonist in 1984 novel, and he spends his days, hours correcting historical records in Mini-True. What it is, we'll see in the next coming slides, no worries. The Ministry of Love, as I said, its mini-love is a gigantic windowless building devoted to torture and brutality. The home of the thought police is surrounded by a maze of barbed wire and machine gun towers. Now, if you can see the word thought police, what exactly it is your thoughts has to be regulated. How can that be possible? Yes, it was according to George Orwell in 1984, it would be possible. And you would be regulated on your thoughts. That is what the message is given from the novel. And it is a crime, thought crime. Like, if you are thinking against the party rules, or if you are thinking against what it is being said to you, that comes under the category of a crime, and that is named as thought crime. Literary devices used in 1984. Symbolism, as I said, Big Brother is not being seen, but he is always a symbol of fear and terror, and yes, he is always seen in pictures, but in reality not visually seen. Satire, because description of a party member as a beetle with short legs, a fat face, shifty little eyes, that is again a satire, because normally a party member should be strong and stout, but that doesn't happen over here. Flashback, because Winston's memory is being all expressed, what Winston thinks about and what all kind of happens, that is a flashback, which you can see one of the devices in 1984, and foreshadowing, that is the diary, which Winston Smith writes and in the later part hides it off. The ministry also conveys paradox. Why? Because war is peace. As I said earlier, war is peace. Can war lead to peace? Slavery is freedom. Can freedom be slavery? And can it be confining? Ignorance is strength. Can one know too much? Is there any limit for knowledge? Can it be like, if you are ignorant, is it possible that you have the power of thinking and you have extra knowledge if you are ignorant? And if you can see the pyramid, you can see the Big Brother is on the top, then the inner party, which is of a fewer population, then the outer party, and the 85% or 81% total would be proles. These are the working parties, people who lead a poor life. This is what Orwell, as I said earlier, Orwell used to say about the Ministry of Peace and Ministry of Love, all because of the four freedom strata what Roosevelt had given in 1941. The structure of the government resembled a parody in reverse of the famous 1941 USA State of the United speech by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In that speech before the assembled Congress, the president outlined this freedom. The first freedom was freedom of speech, which actually was not that prominent, and the second, which you can see, is the freedom of every person to worship God, then the freedom from want, and that is the fourth, that is freedom from fear, which didn't happen, and that is why he said Ministry of Peace, which was all about making war. He tried to parody these four freedoms, maybe one of the reasons why he set his ministries like those names. The first is, according as I said, is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom from every person to worship God in his own ways everywhere again in the world. The third is freedom from want, which translated into word terms means economic understanding which will secure to every nation a healthy peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. These were the freedom points, these were the quotes given by Roosevelt, which to an extent was not in reality happening, and that is why 1984 was a miniature explanation of George Orwell to his oppression. George Orwell appears to have taken this 1941 speech and used it along with his own experience at the BBC to create by reversal the 4 key ministries of government in his novel 1984. Each is focused on an object in exquisite irony, utterly antithetical to its name, so that the Ministry of Truth is concerned with lies, an idea that Orwell seems to have gained by his work at the BBC. The Ministry of Truth as a Ministry of Lies would also be a parody of the free freedom of speech. The terms which you can find in 1984 are telescreen, thought police, 2 minutes hate, the brotherhood, vaporize, AGIC, that is the party name, doublethink, outer party, airstrip one, inner party and pros. These are the terms which you can find in the whole book. This is the symbol of the party. In his novel, Orwell creates a world in which citizens have no right to a personal life or personal thought. Leisure and other activities are controlled through strict mores. Sexual pleasure is discouraged, with female being taught not to enjoy it. Sex is retained only for the purpose of reproduction. The menacing figure of Big Brother has been variously interpreted to be that of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin and BBC Design Department's Rox Oxley. According, as I said, this 1984 has been picturized. It had been film adapted several times. Maybe different characters have played Big Brother, but we cannot see that person, and according to some critics, it is like because of the influence of Stalin, he has made Big Brother's picture. This word is always there. Big Brother is watching you. See the terror of, the eyes, how terrific his eyes has been there, and he looks somewhere like Hitler, and at the same time he looks somewhere like Stalin too. The 3 slogans of the party visible everywhere are: war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. While by definition these words are antonyms, in the world of 1984, the world is in a state of constant war. No one is free and everyone is ignorant. This type of semi-conscious lie and the deliberate self-deception with which the citizens are encouraged to accept it is called double thinking. Now, if you take example of our world also, if we talk about coming or this generation, many are there who are not aware of their own scenario, the place in which we live, or anything about the current happenings throughout the world or even in the same state. But still they don't have any problem and they move on. That is why he is trying to give an example, like even in 1984 in the novel, the setting is in such a way that war is constant. Every time there is war, and people don't know much about why this is happening, and even if they know, they are not bothered much. They don't understand why it is happening, and no one is there to question, or rather no one is there to get an answer from those kind of questions. Everybody was working and everybody was so poor that they cannot dare to ask anything about what is happening throughout around their surroundings. War is peace, it is the slogan, so they cannot say, and that is the slogan written everywhere. And again, freedom is slavery. Slavery is what they are caught in, and that it has been said that it is freedom. And this kind of antonyms was the actual life mentality of the people in 1984 novel, and that is why the word comes double think. If you can see the pink, or rather the light pink color place, these were the place settings of Oceania. I said Oceania is a huge state, and this all things covered. It's somewhere like the whole America, Africa were covered, and some part of Asia. This is the first hardcover edition of 1984 by George Orwell. When we talk about the subject of 1984, life is a big totalitarian system. As I said, Oceania is North America, South Africa and a bit of Australia. Life about the whole totalitarian system. And airstrip 1, a future England in the outpost of Oceania. See the terror of a person standing next to the portrait of Big Brother is watching. London is the mythical country of Oceania. 1984 is all about the future. And London, desolated city governed by terror and constant control of Big Brother. People were not given a chance to think about anything apart from what was the order given by Big Brother. So always they were into constant terror suffered due to the watchlight of Big Brother. If you talk about the structure, introduction of the protagonist, Winston Smith, in the oppressive world. Then what we can see next is Winston and Julia's love, which they have a bit of happiness period. Then we see Winston's imprisonment and torture. This is the pledge, as I said. Throughout the novel you can see this. Newspeak is the official language of Oceania, as standard English had to be rewritten, and they converted everything into this language, which is called Newspeak. And the goal of the party is to have Newspeak replace Old Speak, that is standard English. This is the picture, if you can see, this is the party's motto, as I said, in 1984. Newspeak does what? It eliminates undesirable words and invents new words, all the force of party conformity. For example, if you say love, that is not the correct word for Newspeak, so they would convert it into something else. They always make sure that whichever the old standard English followed, they were resetting it and eliminating those words which were not of interest of the party. Its aim was to eliminate literature, thoughts and consciousness. Why? Because literature, thoughts and consciousness is something which make a noble or a normal man alive, creative, and he can imagine with the help of literature, and he can imagine with his thoughts, and that again in the novel setting you can find that if a character is having a thought which is against the party, or rather he is having a thought for himself, that comes under the category of thought crime, and then we cannot think about anything related to consciousness. And I said, what is double thinking? It is a manipulation of the mind by making people accept contradiction. War is peace. That is a kind of double speak. That is double thinking. Double think makes people believe that the party is the only institution that knows right and wrong. Whatever the party says, that has to be the truth, and because there are no person to question it, they have no doubt in it, and even if they have any doubt, they are not able enough to ask for it. The Ministry of Truth, where Winston works, the protagonist, changes histories, facts and memories to promote doublethink. This is a quote. I've incorporated lots of quotes from the novel itself, so you'll have a bit of idea how kind of writing is there in this novel. I have it in my power to inflict pain on you at any moment and to whatever degree I choose. That is the order by Minister. You are not alone, or rather you don't have any power apart from me. I have the power for everything. If you commit something which I feel is wrong, you would be tortured to the extent which I feel. There is no amount of degree where it would be an end. There should be a limit? No. The sky is a limit? No. Now about the names and characters. The name Winston Smith. Maybe this is one of the thing. Winston Churchill, everybody knows, and the most common surname in England. That is the universal plus highly individualized character. Every man and exceptional man. Ordinariness, integrity, intellectual, that is Winston. And awareness and an exceptional man, or a very common, is Smith. If you can see the picture, this is John Hurt, the hero as Winston in Mikhail Bradford's 1984 movie. And if we talk about his character, main character and the narrator of the story too, he is of 39-year-old low-ranking member of the ruling party. He secretly hates Big Brother and harbors revolutionary dreams. Winston is thin, frail, contemplative, intellectual. No doubt he is intellectual, but if you can see the figure, you can understand a 39-year-old man, and he is again thin and frail. How much big difference can he make, though he is having revolutionary thought, though he is intellectual, and he is given the task to change history and to write something new. He is one of the person who is supposed to work for the Doublethink. His job was somewhere like George Orwell's work at the BBC. He was also working for BBC, and here our Winston Smith is also working for correction, though he is not working for exactly. And the way to experience love is somewhere, he is of 39 of age and he's thin and frail, so maybe he's not that outspoken. He's having revolutionary thing and he's having love in himself, but he's not able to experience it to the core because of maybe Big Brother, and at the same time he's also very cautious about things, and the effort to remember things is very hard, and that is why he always maintains a diary. And part 3, you can see he thinks he can retain integrity while conforming outwardly. That's why he needs to be taken to room 101. That was the comment which you can see in part 3 about Winston Smith when he is getting tortured. Why he is getting tortured, that we'll see in the slides coming. Now the character Julia. As I said, Winston, that is the main character who is speaking all about the novel. Then you would find Winston, who is in love with Julia. She is Susanna Hamilton as Julia in the same movie. 25-year-old lover. She is beautiful, dark-haired woman who enjoys sex and claims she had affairs with many party members. She is optimistic and her rebellion is small and personal. Julia relates to the romantic character of Shakespeare's Juliet, but very practical minded and a matter of fact. No surname is given to this, not explored in any depth, because Julia is just character. As been said here, she is of 25-year-old and she is in love with Winston, and the part of the rest, like whatever she says and whenever they are having sex together, whenever she is explaining about her love, that is all what we can see about Julia. Nothing much about her is being explored, and thereby if you can see, Winston is given Smith, his surname too, but Julia is just named as Julia. She is not given any surname. And she is quite a contrast with Winston, because he is revolutionary and he is intellectual too. No doubt Julia also put forth, but she is more a rebellion rather than a revolutionary. She is great resourcefulness and she is having an animal vigor. Practically, if you say, she is practical rebellion against the party, optimism and non-interested in politics is what we can see about her concern, but great capacity for original ideas. Big Brother is a perceived ruler of Oceania. He looks like a combination of Hitler and Stalin. Sounds like the name given to Stalin, like Little Father was the name given to Stalin, and maybe like Little Father, instead of that it's Big Brother. Big Brother is like a god-like image, is stamped on coins and projected on the telescreen. His gaze is unavoidable. Wherever you go, whatever you see, you will find at every nook and corner and everything, you will find the face of Big Brother gazing at you. And he was the embodiment of power, just like God. He was the ruler, as I said, and never appears in the novel, and Big Brother's face is plastered everywhere with the message, Big Brother is watching you. Everywhere any citizen of Oceania turns, he or she will see Big Brother staring back. Emmanuel Goldstein, he's of Jewish origin, the leader of Brotherhood, anti-party of Oceania. He may be inspired by Trotsky. Emmanuel, that is the savior, the main, it's the Messiah. And he's a dangerous, mysterious enemy. His name may be inspired by Trotsky's surname, Brostin. Brostin changed into Goldstein. Theme of necessity of an enemy onto which people's anger is driven is the reason why Emmanuel Goldstein is there as a rebellious the honor or the leader of the rebellious party called Brotherhood. Mr. Charrington runs a store in the proletarian district where the poor live and where there is seemingly little party monitoring. If you can see the picture, you can see the working mass of Prole district. So many of the people were working mass, 81 to 84.5% of people were poor. They were into poverty, and this all were the working class people. And he, Mr. Charrington, was the one who runs the store for them, and he helps Winston on numerous occasions, including helping him to procure a diary and set up a private meeting place for his girlfriend Julia. O'Brien is like Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor, the brother Karamazov, torturer who was also tortured. If we talk about the plot, it can be in three parts, or rather three stages of Winston's rebellion against the party. First thing is like he starts keeping a diary. In fact, even if you watch the movie, there also it's clearly, and even in the book it's the same, you'll see he's reading or he's opening his diary and he's reading from it, and he remembers the 2 minutes hate of the morning where he had been impressed by two people, a dark-haired woman, I guess you know that, it is Julia, and O'Brien thinks he shares his feeling because people are deceptive, and that is what happened in the novel too. He's down with Big Brother. He starts leading a double life, writing his diary and working and rewriting histories at Ministry of Truth. There in his diary he is writing what he feels and what he thinks in reality what is happening, and in his office or in his workplace he is rewriting history in the Ministry of Truth. Simon the philologist illustrates some of the principles of which Newspeak is based. W, that is Winston Smith, thinks one day he will be vaporized since he's too intelligent. Just imagine if a person is too intelligent, he would be vaporized soon. If there is hope, it lies in the proles. Second aspect was like Winston Smith meets the dark-haired girl in a corridor. She falls down, he helps her, she slips a note into his hands, which was in the note it was written, "I love you." After some days, she gives him instruction to meet in a crowd after work. They make an arrangement to meet in a wood next Sunday afternoon. Her name's Julia. She's against all that party stands for. They make love. These are all things which is, according to the party and according to Oceania rules and regulations, against them. They meet again. Winston rents a room above Mr. Charrington's shop, which is called Rats. O'Brien gives Winston his address and offers him a copy of the new dictionary of Newspeak. They go to his house, speaks about Goldstein. He illustrates the idea of brotherhood to him. Somewhere Winston flows into the idea of brotherhood, but he's not clearly into any of the party norms. Then Winston goes to the room with a copy of Goldstein book. He and Julia read some passages and then they fall asleep soon. A voice wakes them up. The room is invaded by police. They are arrested. In the third section you see Winston is in a cell in the Ministry of Love. After some time in which Winston thinks he will be loyal to Julia, O'Brien enters the room. He starts undergoing interrogations, physical as well as mental torture is being done. Now we'll have to understand why he was being imprisoned or why he was being physically and mentally tortured, because he loved one person. O'Brien explains to Winston the party cannot allow opposition. This was something which is an opposite act, and the party cannot allow opposition. Reintegration happens through 3 stages. If you can see, he keeps diary, that is his learning, then slowly his understanding, and finally because of all these tortures and things, he is unto the level of acceptance. Pain at wrong answers and humiliation to the core. Passes. Winston tries to make himself accept the view of the party. Finally, he is sent to room 101. That is the most horrible room anybody can get in, and that is one of the room in which torturing to the utmost level is being done. Strapped in a chair with a cage with rats in front of his face. That is what room 101 contained. The worst thing in the world. Rats all coming onto your face. Imagine how good torture it is and how extreme you can suffer to this kind of torture, and the only reason for it is because you are in love. That is what Winston Smith had to face. Winston panics, shouts that Julia should be tortured in his place. In the initial level, he believes he should stick on to his love and he should be faithful to Julia, and no matter what kind of torturing he would have to surrender with, he'll have to abide, he will have to suffer it, because he was trying to be faithful to his lady love. But because of this much of torture, he could not survive more, and that is why he says stop, and he is giving a kind of shout that says Julia should be tortured in his place. Winston has been released, and he gets converted into a heavy drinker. He remembers a meeting with Julia in which they both reveal that they had betrayed each other. Their love has been destroyed. By the end, it happens like both of them get to meet each other, and then Winston Smith also comes to know that when the torture was installed to Julia, she also said the same thing, that Winston should be tortured. That shows they were not in much love, because when the torture came, when the situation was so much harsh, they were not able enough to be faithful towards each other. He remembers his childhood but pushes the memory away. The telescreen announces a great victory over Oceania. Winston is caught up in excitement, and he realizes that he loves Big Brother now. Because no matter what had happened, no matter how much torture he had to suffer, but then when he was silently in his room thinking about something, thinking about Julia's mate, thinking about his childhood, later when the announcement was there that they had won a battle, he started, he was excited, and that shows somewhere that he started accepting the norms and rules of Big Brother. He started liking him, liking the rule. If we talk something about 1984 again as a thematic function, it's a science fiction novel, a frightening vision of the future. Because if a person or if the whole city or place is being under surveillance, how would one live? Or it's very hard for it's beyond our mind that we cannot live in that. Because when we are at the social place, we realize that we are at this place and we have to be obedient, or we have to follow certain norms at that particular place. But then the moment one reaches home, one feels relaxed, one feels happy and calm. But again, if at that place also, if you are being observed and if you are supposed to be under the rules and guidance of somebody else, or rather the party, it's something which is very frightening. Then it is all about the historical, social, political, scientific issues of the time. Mass production, totalitarian regimes, modern views of sex and social relationship, reproduction in labs. What is it? We'll see when I have quoted some words, sentences, we'll see in that. And the themes which are being here in 1984 novel is the first, totalitarianism, that is all about the freedom of thought and expression, analyzes the mechanism of the basis of totalitarian thoughts, its rebellion of the individual, total control of the party. He can't become a martyr. His destruction and reintegration goes through 3 stages. Anyone who wants to be against, they come under this 3 stages: learning, understanding, and finally acceptance, accepting the party rules. Some other factors are manipulation of minds, abolition of any form of freedom, system of doublethink, subjection of history and the art of the aims of the party, urban settings, miserable life conditions of the proles, simplified language, a grey world with no pleasure or joy, symbol of a dreary, squalid, hopeless life, physical infirmities of the character, widespread mismanagement, constant presence of dust everywhere. Some of the quotes. Do you begin to see then what kind of world we are creating? It is the exact opposition of the stupid hedonist utopias that the old reformers imagined. A world of fear and treachery and torment, a world of trampling and being trampled upon, a world which will grow into less but more merciless as it refines itself. Progress is in our world will be progress towards more pain. This is one of the quote from the text itself, where it has been said, what are we creating? People are talking about these things, no doubt. Where are we creating? What are we going to do? Where everybody is going towards progress, we are going towards the progress towards pain. The true goal of Newspeak is to take away the ability to inadequately conceptualize revolution or even dissent by removing words that would be used to that end. Since the thought police had yet to develop a method of reading people's mind to catch dissent, Newspeak was created so that it wasn't even possible to think a dissenting thought. This concept has been examined and widely discounted in linguistics. Never again will you be capable of ordinary human feelings. Everything will be dead inside you. Never again will you be capable of love or friendship or joy of living or laughter or curiosity or courage or integrity. You will be hollow. You shall squeeze your empty, and then you shall fill you with ourself. That is what the power of party was, and that is what the party was trying to do. You would be tormented to such extent that you would have nothing in you. You would be totally empty, and then they would fill of what they exactly want you to be. Are human or machines? Some few more quotes are there. We are not content with negative obedience, nor even with the most abject submission. When finally you surrender to us, it must be of your own free will. We do not destroy the heretic because he resists us. So long as he resists us, we never destroy him. We convert him. We capture his inner mind. We reshape him. We burn all evil and all illusion out of him. We will bring him over to our side, not in appearance but genuinely heart and soul. We make him one of ourselves before we kill him. It is intolerable to us that an enormous thought would exist anywhere in the world, however secret and powerless it may be. Even in the instance of death, we cannot permit any deviation. We make the brain perfect before we blow it out. Man was not taken as man, but man is no better than any machine, because you are not made it. A person is not being changed just like because of compulsion, but he is tortured in such a way that somewhere in his mind, unconscious mind also starts saying, okay, believe to what Big Brother says, or believe what to the party is or trying to make you believe. And at the same time, it is like even a minute thought which would be against the party or which would be for yourself should not be encouraged. Rather, your mind should be totally with us, and what we follow should be the thing what you follow before you die even. We shall abolish the orgasm. Neurologists are at work upon it now. There will be no loyalty except loyalty towards the party. There will be no love except the love of Big Brother. There will be no laughter except the love of triumph over a defeated enemy. There will be no art, no literature, no science. When we are omnipotent, there will be no need of science. There will be no distinction between beauty and ugliness. There will be no curiosity, no enjoyment of the process of life. All competing pleasures will be destroyed. But always, do not forget this, Winston, Always there will be the intoxication of power constantly increasing and constantly growing subtler. Always at every moment there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling of an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. That is what is being informed Winston, because again, the reason why they say they should abolish orgasm, again, because if at all you are trying to be loyal with a lady, you always think about her, and that would affect your work to some extent. If you think about your family even, that is because of love and affection. If you think about your family, again, that would be a hindrance towards work. That would be a hindrance towards the thought of the party. That is why the neurologists are trying to do such things that they would only have one feeling, that they should always work hard and they should always obey to what the party says and what Big Brother says. If this has been achieved, rather this is what the whole party is trying to achieve in Oceania with each and every person. Now we'll talk a bit on what exactly utopia is, because you will find throughout, like, the word utopia is being changed. If you see the first quote, you will understand they were talking about the word utopia, and everybody knows utopia means the ideal world. In Ram Raj, that is the word to be more associated with it. The first utopia what we heard about is Plato's Republic. It's an ideal world governed by philosophers. Then in the Renaissance period, Thomas More's Utopia was written, and Francis Bacon's New Atlantis also talks about an ideal world, what kind of rules or what kind of regulations or governance should be there so that people can live a calm and simple peaceful life. Revival in the 19th century, William Butler's Rion and William Morris' News from Nowhere was one of a kind. Then anti-utopia, that is the reversed utopia or dystopia. Often no journey distance in time, not in space, the traveler is internal. Promotes the creation of a better society by showing a negative one as terrible. An exaggeration of trend already present and nightmarish vision of the future. Means nobody is in peace, nobody is in calmness, and that is why the word dystopia, or which is anti-utopia. In utopian world, nobody has to think about any kind of fear, all would be calm and leading a peaceful life. But when they have a threat about their future or about a kind of fear is prevailing in my mind, that would come under the category of dystopian world. Examples for such world was Thomas Swift's Gulliver's Travel, Jack London's The Iron Heel, which changes the society and politics. Not much attention is given to the technological developments. Then Zamtazian V, a war perhaps about all except of most of the world's population. Orwell wrote essays on all these topics. Another famous examples which we can see is Huxley's Brave New World. It may be like an ironical statement Shakespeare had written in his Tempest. Oh wonder, how many godly creatures are there here, how beauteous mind is, oh brave new world, that has much people in it. This is being ironized, and that is why his dystopia was named as Brave New World. When you talk about 1984, it's an anti-utopian novel and a frightening picture of a future, has been said early, because the party controls everything and because of the slogan. It's an anti-utopian novel. Why? Because of the telescreen. You can see everywhere, wherever you go, you are being watched by the telescreen, and you cannot be in isolation. Wherever you go, the big brother or the party is able to watch you up. And the novel introduces the concept of ever-present, all-seeing Big Brother, the notorious Room 101, and the thought police who uses telescreen. Means, as I said, the televisions that contain a surveillance camera found in almost every room of the apartments of the character in the novel, and the fictional language Newspeak. These are the few words which are which were given in this novel, and it is ever-present and all-seeing. The technology used, the world of 1984 is foremost a political, not a technological dystopia. Hence, it can be quite inaccurate to refer it whenever you are concerned about new technologies. The technological level of the society in the novel is mostly crude and less advanced than in the real 1980s. Apart from the telescreens and speech recognition typewriters, it is no more advanced than in wartime Britain. Living standards are low and declining, with rational and unpalatable brands products in the regard of Orwell's vision is diametrically opposed to the technology heroism of Brave New World. Nuclear weapons in particular are avoided in the perpetual war, since its whole point is to be indecisive. This stagnation is related to what is perhaps the most frightening aspect of the novel. For all the brutality, the rhymes are not going to burn themselves out in the strategically significant conquest or technological arm races. Rather, they have reached a stable equilibrium that could last forever. This is Big Brother. Big Brother is watching you. These are the few images. Again, some few images. Finally, this is what you can see in the movie, and this is what it is all about. Big Brother is watching you, so be beware. That is the whole kind of this much were a few aspects which we can discuss in 1984. Thank you.
SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.